Hello and welcome developers, my name is Shay and this is another episode of Shay Develops. Today we're going to be continuing our talk on JavaFX. Today we're going to be talking about layouts and specifically the GridPane layout. Now there's several, I think there's about 8 layouts that you can use with JavaFX and they all have their different uses, of course, right? But like I said, today we're going to be talking about GridPane. Now the first thing we're going to do is, and I've already done it here, is you're going to create a new project with using the JavaFX template. And if you're not sure how to do that, watch my first video in this series. It's installing JavaFX, and it shouldn't take you very long to get through that and understand, like I said, exactly once you install it and then once you get whenever you create your first project with that. So right here's, I've got my first project. We're going to continue on with creating that workout creator project that I was talking about before in the first one, in the first video. So I'm just going to call this workout creator, or more like hit workout creator. And I know that later on I'm going to be wanting to make this a little bit bigger, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to set it to 600 by 400. And we're going to be building this within this fxml file, but you could come down here if you wanted to and do GridPane equals new GridPane, and then start working from the GridPane here, like setting with properties or children, age gap, adding rows and columns, stuff like that. But we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be, like I said, working directly from the sample.xml file. But the first thing I want to do is rename this, and I'll right click the name of itself, go down here to refactor, hit rename, and I'm just going to call this welcome.fxml, because that's what this first screen is going to be. It's just going to be a welcome. Whenever we go into some of the other layouts in future videos, we'll be creating more fxml files and attaching these to those files. So go ahead and click the refactor, and now you'll notice here we can go back here to main, and this was sample.xml. Now it's welcome.fxml, and we've got all that so far set up. So we can go ahead and do a test run to make sure everything's fine. We call this a sanity check, because really we haven't done much, but we want to make sure that everything is working, and everything's working so far. We got hit workout creator as our title, and it's popped up as like it should. Now a GridPane is really just a series of cells, kind of like Excel, except for you can do a lot more with it. And they're broken up into row. These cells are rows and columns that, as I said, that make up the entire project. So let's go ahead and start with something small here. Like let's add our button. So we'll do, and this button is going to allow us to go from one screen to the next whenever we code that stuff in a later video. But for now, like I said, we're strictly focusing on the layout. So we'll go button, text, just gonna say get started. And then before we actually run this, because I know that's gonna work, we're gonna go ahead and add some other stuff too. We're gonna add label, label text, and I'm just going to copy some text over here on my other screen real quick. All right, it says welcome to the workout generator, and we'll go ahead and close that tag off. Now we're going to go ahead and run this, and you're going to see something weird, and you're going to see the fact that these two are actually stacked on top of each other, and we need to define what grids and columns that each item is going to belong in. So for this one, we're going to use the GridPane column index, and we're going to set that equal to 0. And the GridPane row index, we're going to set that equal to 0 as well. And then instead of button, we're not going to set it to any kind of GridPane just yet. Instead, we're going to use what's called an HBox. Now, I know this video is supposed to be about GridPane. I'm throwing the HBox layout in here already. But the HBox layout isn't necessarily supposed to be used by itself. And it's supposed to, unless you're like maybe creating like a dialog box or something. But the HBox is supposed to be used as to kind of help divide up some pages. So HBox means that it's a horizontal box. So everything that you put in this this container is going to stay within a horizontal row. So HBoxes are really easy. It's just HBox, and then it's got an opening and closing tag. I'm going to grab my button, throw it in there, clean up that extra space there. And then now, once we go and run this, actually after I go ahead and set its GridPane, so we'll have a column index of 0, and then a row index of 1. And we can go ahead and run this again. And you'll notice that we now have them on separate lines. Now, I didn't have to put this button in a HBox, but it was a good opportunity to show you one real quick, just to use. Now, we're going to continue because we're going to add another label here. But before I continue well, actually, no, we'll come back to that. This alignment, center H gap and V gap here in a little bit. It'll be easier to show off once I have a little bit more content on the page. So let's create another label. This one is going to have a column index of 0 and then a row index of 1. And then this one we're going to go ahead and change to 2. And I'm going to copy some text from over here just to put right here. And now we are breaking up our GridPane layout to show some actual stuff. So far we have a little bit of information here, and then a button, a couple labels, and a button, which is great. I mean, that's really a lot of the GridPane layout. Like I said, we're just creating these rows and columns. Now, if you want to see these rows and columns, we can use an attribute within our GridPane element here. That's called Gridlines visible equals true. And let me make this a little bigger. Sorry about that. And we can run this again, and you'll notice that whenever we run it, we have these black borders here, and that is the grid lines of our different rows and columns. So you see right now we only have one column, and you can see that because if you look at our column indexes on all of our items, they're all 0. So if we had a column index of 0 and another one of 1, it would split this down the middle, and we would have a column here and a column here. And then as long as the window has enough space to show all the text, it won't do something like this where you see these ellipses down here on the side, and it'll show you everything that you need to, because it's taking up the width of the largest amount of information. It's using that to set the width of the column. There's also other ways you can set the width of the column. You can use column constraints, and then also on top of that you can also use row constraints, and I'll show you guys that here in just a little bit. And then you can also set paddings and stuff like that to help add space or white space whenever you need it. So let's go ahead and close this down, and let's talk about this H gap and V gap here for a minute. Now the H gap is a horizontal gap, and that's the gap between columns. So we should probably add another column here. So right here on this one, let's do label GridPane column index 1 and GridPane row index 1, and then we'll do text, and we're going to actually just erase this here in a little bit. Like, this is the column index 1. We're going to go ahead and run this. And see, because you'll notice here, we've only gotten this little bit of space, and it hasn't divided the space up evenly. It's because it doesn't need to. But you'll notice that this space right here, that's going to be our H gap. That's right there. And then this space here, that's going to be our V gap. So if you wanted to go ahead and change this to 100 by 100, something large so you can really see it, you'll notice the difference now, how we have 100 pixels of space between these items. Now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that and set those back to 10 for now. But you can also mess with this alignment. So alignment right now currently says center, but you could do something like center, or top center, bottom center, center left, center right. Do top center. Run that again. And you'll notice that now our stuff is currently up at the top. But I'm going to leave this as center. And I'm going to get rid of, well, actually, before I get rid of this other column, let's show you column constraints real quick. So column constraints, you write them in their own element. And I call these items here that are within the greater than and less than signs, or less than greater than signs. Those are your elements. And then this information right here, these are your attributes, a lot like HTML, if you're familiar with that, with the hypertext markup language that that you use to build websites. So with our column constraints, we can set our column constraints with either a percent width or a pixel width. But we're going to stick with percent width for now, and we're going to give it a percent width of 50%. We don't have to set the actual I just got bit in the foot by my dog because I accidentally kicked him. Sorry, buddy. So we don't actually have to set the percentage amount or the actual percentage tag here. We just use the 50.0. And then for each one of these column constraints that we're setting up represents which column that it should be corresponded to with, as far as whenever we're going down or whenever we're going down the line. So the first one is said to be the column index of 0, and then the second one will be the column index of 1. So right now we have 50-50. So if you remember the last one, it wasn't 50-50, it was more like 70-30. So if we run this now again, we'll see that we have 50-50 across the board. So see, it's divided right down the middle, 50% on this side, 50% on this side. Now you can also do this with row constraints, and it works the exact same way. We can just do row constraints and then row constraints, and we can do percent height rather than percent width, and we could set this also here as well, and just go ahead and run this. And you can see how this top row is taking up 50% of the available space between them. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to erase all this stuff, or just comment it out because we really don't need it for this video. And I'm going to get rid of this other label. All right. So now we're going to continue to build this up a little bit further. Now that we've got our HBox, let's actually make this look a little better. So you can add some styling to your grids and stuff, or to your cells, or the content in them. Now I'm going to do this all inline styling, which is basically just writing CSS right here in my FXML template. But you can attach a style sheet to the template, and we're going to be doing that in a later video whenever we really go in depth and start like adding some styling to the project. But for now, we're just going to go and we're going to start adding it to just the what we have here in line. So in order to do that, we can just use the style keyword. So I'm going to clean this up just a little bit. We're going to use style equals, and then now here we can start adding our style sheet. So if you're familiar with CSS, it's a lot like CSS, except for everything starts with a hyphen FX, excuse me, and then goes to another hyphen again. So if we wanted to, and some of the CSS is a little different. So if we wanted to make the text red for this first label, we would do text fill red. And you'll notice though that some things don't necessarily work the way you want to, like when you're going to align text and stuff like that. It doesn't always work the way you would see or the way you would expect. So you may have to use a different layout if you're not getting the things that you're expecting them to be. If it's not looking the way you're expecting. So I'm making the text red, and I'm going to make it a little bigger. So fx-font size. We're going to set it to 24 pixels. And then now we can go ahead and, well, let's go ahead and modify this one too real quick. And we'll do style equals text fill. We're gonna make it white, and that might make it not readable for right now, but we're gonna add an image to the background of this so you guys can see how that would look very shortly. All right, so make it white, and then we'll make the font size 18 pixels. All right, and now we can go ahead and run this. And you can see we have welcome to the workout generator, and select workouts and start getting in shape today is in red and then white, and we have our get started button down here. And I'm going to go ahead and remove the grid lines that are visible because we don't need those anymore. Now for this HBox button, I want to make it centered, and I can make that centered. So what I want to do is use the alignment property and just do, I have messed that up a little bit, add a little space there, alignment property, and make that center. And then I want to set a preferred width to my button, and I'm going to make it 150 pixels. All right, let's go ahead and run this. All right, and there we go. Now it's starting to look a little better. Now the last thing we're going to do is we are going to add a background to our GridPane, so that way we have something to contrast the this text here. So I grabbed a quick little a little workout image of this person grabbing a kettlebell, and I'm just going to drag and drop it into my source folder. It says move file. Yes, I want to move the file. And then now, in order to add this, it's real simple. You use style equals, and then now we're going to give it a background, fx background image. Right, just basically the same as background image for CSS. We're just adding the hyphen fx first. A URL, and then for the URL, we're just, since it's in directly within the source folder, we can just use the name of the file. So kb background.jpg, and then close that, and then we can do -fx. Oh, Didn't mean to. There we go. Dash FX dash background repeat. No repeat, because otherwise it will repeat. And we can set dash FX dash background size cover, and we're doing that because whenever we go to run the program, if we resize the window, the background itself doesn't resize with it. So now that's going to allow that to resize. And then the last thing we're going to do, FX dash background position. We're going to set that to center as well. And now it might make some of this a little hard to read, so let's go ahead and give this a FX border. And I'm not actually sure if this is going to work. 1 pixel solid black, then FX background color. We're going to set it to gray. All right, let's go ahead and run this. And now we are getting an error here, CSS parsing FX border, so it doesn't like that per se. It doesn't like the border part there, but the rest of it is working. You'll see we have our image here, and we can scale it however we want to, and that is working like intended, and we can read that. This is welcome to the workout generator, and we can click get started. And nothing happens yet. We have to set that all up within our controller. But for now, hopefully you guys understand, like I said, how to use the GridPane. Remember, it's just, think of it like a bunch of blocks, and each of these, as I said, each of these bits of content is in its own cell, and then the cells, well, the rows and columns make up all the cells that the content's divided up into. So hopefully you guys have understood that, and I made that pretty clear. Let me show you just one more thing though, until just in case you're wanting to know, there is a way to set padding and across or around the sides of your content. So if you're going to do padding element and then use the insets element, you can set top, right, left, bottom. You can set them all at the same time if you want to, but I'm going to say top, and I'm going to set it to 20. So if I go back to here and set this alignment to top center, you'll notice that it's actually moved down 20 pixels. So if I was to get rid of this and just set this and just comment this out and not use it at all, and we set it back to top center, it's moved up pretty much right up against minus the V gap. It's moved up right up against the top of our page here that we've created, our view. So I'm going to go ahead and change this back to center. And I don't need this padding, but I just wanted to show you guys that. So I said, hopefully you'll have learned something. I really appreciate you sticking around this far. If you guys did, this has been a little bit longer than I expected it to be, but I wanted to give you guys as much information as I possibly could. I've seen a lot of these, or a lot of videos with a lot of content that's based out of creating stuff within this main page, but I feel like if you're going to build like a layout, it should be separate. Or like I said, your visual content should be separate from from what you're actually like doing on the back end of that content. And I feel like this is a really good way to do that. But so stay tuned, guys. Next time we're going to be continuing to work on this, and I'm going to have some other videos coming out too on just Java in general. We're going to talk about maps, and well, there's some other stuff in the pipeline coming down soon. All right, so you guys are awesome. I really hope y'all stick around, leave me a like, comment, subscribe. Please, that really helps me out. Lets me know that I've got some people who are interested and I can start pushing out more content as fast as I possibly can. Alright though, if you guys are working on something though and you need some help, don't feel free to reach out to me, particularly in the comments. I'll check them out on a daily basis to see if there's anybody out there who could use some help. And I've got a couple of videos that'll be coming out shortly for a couple of you guys out there so far. Alright, so y'all are amazing. I hope y'all have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.